Trends in popularity and remuneration of internships and residencies. And what is the role of veterinary colleges? I'm providing this teaching tip because students very often want to know from us as their mentors, their instructors, what are the pros and cons of internships and residencies? And so I want to give you some information so you understand sort of where things are standing right now and can help talk students through some of these conversations. As we all know, internships and residencies are not a requirement for us. We are capable of practicing as soon as we graduate and have passed national boards at whatever state or provincial boards we need to pass. But there has been a great increase in the number of internship and residency programs since 1988, and the one publication that I looked at demonstrated that between 1988 and 2022, when that was published, it had been a huge increase, 900% increase in internships, and just over 200% increase in residencies, which demonstrates that society values are having this extra training, and especially residencies. Knowing that we have training programs to create specialists is an important thing. Society is driving that by requesting that we have those kinds of specialists available. The number of people applying for those positions also rose dramatically if you look at it all the way from 1998 to 2022. But the bulk of that rise was early on. And actually from 2014 to 2023, the number of applicants for internships and residencies has declined. So why do people want to do internships and residencies? Those reasons that have been published are that people want more supervised clinical practice, so they don't want just the 1 year of their clinical year of training, they want supervision beyond that. They want to focus on a specific discipline that they're interested in, or they perceive they will be making more money if they become a specialist. Work published in the AVMA journal demonstrated that if you're going for the higher salary, you have to complete a residency and become a specialist for that to be true. Just doing an internship was not associated with an overall increase in salary compared to people who went immediately into practice. And the greatest return on the time and the money invested was for being a boarded specialist full-time or by being a practice owner. In general, being a specialist full or three-quarter time did earn you more money than being a general practitioner and was comparable to being a practice owner. So if your goal is to make the best salary that you can, you should own your practice or be a specialist. But we know that students are graduating with significant debt, and a review was done of the AVMA student exit survey data that showed that that debt was unequal, that women in particular and women with children were more likely to have more debt, and that those who had less debt generally had family who could help support them by paying for them or providing them with a no-interest loan while they were in school. The amount of debt did not vary with whether they got scholarships or grants. And so that suggests we're at a risk in our diversity recruitment because only those with significant family support coming in may be likely to be able to take on the debt that is required to get through vet school and then to take on the relatively low-paying job of being an intern or a resident over a period of time. Internships and residencies historically have paid much less than going into private practice. Internships are not overseen by any formal process. Residencies are. The American Board of Veterinary Specialties oversees all of the specialty colleges, and the specialty colleges oversee all of the residencies, either in academia or in private practice. And so there's a little bit of authority there, but none of those have any authority over how much a given academic institution or practice pays that resident. All they can say is this is the kind of training that they have to receive. A report in 2021 showed that 22% of internship programs and 15% of residency programs paid less than what was required to meet a living wage. And that was an overall look at what they were being paid. If you looked at it per hour, considering that interns and residents always work more than a 40-hour week, the percentage that was receiving less than the living wage skyrocketed to 92% of internships and 87% of residency programs. And looking at the match data for internships and residencies, you can see that this has been recognized. Those salaries are going up. So salaries have improved for internships with a median rise of $15,000 per program, with internships in private practice settings paying more than those in academia. And residence salaries also improved, although not to the same extent as internship programs, and again, are higher in private practice than in academic settings. If you look across the United States, in general, salaries for interns and residents are higher on the West Coast, and that's likely associated with a higher cost of living in that part of the country. The thing that's probably most startling is that if you were a candidate who did your internship in private practice and then you went to academia to do your residency, you showed an average decrease in your salary of 39%, which probably does not encourage many people to go to do those residencies, which works against society's apparent desire for us to have more residence training to become specialists. And then there are non-monetary things to be considered outside of salary. Very often, residents are required to sign non-compete agreements. Interns usually are not, but residents very often are, especially residents doing a private practice residency. And that means they cannot necessarily practice to moonlight to raise more money, and it may even control where they work for at least 1 year and sometimes more years after their training, which would mean they would have to move to be able to work as a specialist. And that again is a cost and a burden to that individual. Benefits generally have been better in academia historically, but now that is no longer necessarily true, as private practices have recognized that and are trying to offer a wider variety of benefits. They can offer signing bonuses, they can give them financial incentives for taking emergency shifts that may not be permitted at the university, and they can give them continuing education stipends and vacation days that again may not be permitted by the job class that these individuals have in a university setting. So what does this mean in the long term? Well, in the long term, for a person who chooses to do internship and residency, if they have that educational debt and they don't have enough income coming in to really help offset it, the debt just sits there or even grows. That leads to decreased wellness and to enormous changes in how that person plans their life. Are they going to be able to buy a house? Are they going to be able to have a child? Are they going to be able to live where they want to? And the answer may be no to those things depending on their debt and their inability to pay off any of that debt. They're going to have less money to put into retirement accounts. And that may not strike you as a big important thing when you're 24 years old, but it's a big important thing, even as early as 24 years old. The earlier you can start paying into those things, obviously, the better that's going to serve you when you reach retirement age. And so having to defer that is detrimental. And then finally, it's been well shown that this financial stress is a leading cause of burnout for those people who complete internships and residencies. These are the statistics for this year. So in 2023, there were just about 1,700 internships available, 976 people applied, and 56% of applicants matched for internships. That same year, there were almost 500 residencies available, about 500 people applied, and about 80% matched. If you're interested in doing a residency, the most competitive residencies historically are ophthalmology, zoo medicine, exotics and wildlife, equine surgery, avian, and large animal surgery. And very often those are the most competitive because there are the fewest of them available. And if you're interested in all the match statistics for years, if you go to the hard copy of this presentation, go into the slides and click on this link, that will take you to the statistics for all the years to help you see how this works out. So society says we need more specialty care, and the AVMA has projected that the demand will be for specialists in environmental and public health, aquaculture, food animal practice, toxicology, lab animal medicine, molecular biology, immunology, and diagnostic pathology. And so we want to make sure that we, as individuals who are counseling students, are helping those with an interest in these fields to think about what they want to do with that interest and if they do want to pursue internships and residencies. Right now, we don't really know for sure what drives a student to pursue that training. I mean, certainly it's those things we've talked about. But one thing that has been shown is that they do rely on advice from mentors, people in practice, veterinarians they've worked with, instructors in their college. And so what is our role? How do we mentor DVM students wisely regarding post-DVM training? And how do we provide the right kind of programs to make sure that we are giving people not just the training they need, but the ability to live a good life now and to have a good life long term as they leave our training programs? These are references for some of the information that I have provided for you. And again, if you go to the hard copy of this presentation, you should be able to click on those links for any of these that you want to read.